Hey, Super Crew, it's DC Sun coming back to you. Long time no see. This has been a pretty full on week for everybody, including myself. Missed the upload date for Arrow, so I'm just going to add it on to DC's Legends of Tomorrow. So let's go ahead and get right into that. This week's Arrow has been interesting. I mean, the introduction of Human Target, for those who don't know, it was somewhat of a minor character and through some important storylines, but somewhat of a minor character that was used in early issues of DC comic stories. And the character is kind of like a James Bond Master of Disguise type character, which is exactly how they're playing him in this version of Arrow. So I'm kind of happy to see that because they're sticking closer to the roots of the character with a few updates and things, and him knowing Diggle and running into Arrow in Arrow's past. Obviously, he didn't know, but still having that character around and giving that little bit of backstory was kind of interesting, and tying all the characters and things together. So, I really did enjoy that. That actor's actually really good with action sequences and things. For those who may not know, given it's not a DC property, he was also previously on Marvel's Jessica Jones on Netflix. And he did a really good job of playing a damaged character. So having him on Arrow is nice because we get to see him kind of flesh out a different character, completely different take, different angle, everything. And for him to kind of play Arrow's double in a few instances is kind of funny because it does give the character a chance to be in two places at one time, which is kind of what they played upon in this most recent episode. So that was good. Prometheus. Who is it? You know, looking at, and I don't mean who is Prometheus the character, I mean the actor playing him. You know, you have a lot of people that are feeling that it could be Oliver or Dolph Lundgren. And if Dolph Lundgren is playing him, that's going to be kind of interesting because he's a pretty big dude. So eventually getting to see the two of them standing next to each other is just going to be awesome. I'm going to like it. You know, whether you're a Dolph fan or not, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays whatever character he's going to be portraying on the show. And with that, I'm going to say I'm glad to see that Diggle has gotten an upgrade to his helmet because his helmet was a bit Magneto-esque in the previous iteration. So him having an upgrade to the helmet is nice. Moving forward with his character would be fantastic. I'd really like it if they get rid of the idea that he's a fugitive running from the law, just because it's kind of overplayed. But anyways, moving on with Felicity and her new boyfriend. You know, that's you know, it is what it is. Hopefully, it's not going to be one of those characters and storylines that overshadows the real story throughout the rest of the season. Just because I'd like to see a little more action with Arrow, more scenes with specifically Spartan and Arrow, or Oliver and Diggle, just because I really, really like how those two play their characters, especially when they're in the scenes together. It works. It works. Goes smooth. You can go dark in the storyline, that's fine, but having those two together really, really, really makes things interesting for me. With the new characters, it's fine. Although, part of me is enjoying it, and part of me is like, well, why not just do a side TV show with those characters and do something with it. Renegades, Titans, doesn't matter what you call them, anything. That would be interesting because then we can get back to Arrow being a bit more gritty, which is kind of the flow they're going with, similar to the first two seasons. So I hope they stick down that path. Having Prometheus there, I'm wondering if, or maybe it's just a dream, having Prometheus, Alchemy, Reverse Flash, and I guess Damien Dark at one point or another, since they're time jumping, coming together for this big crossover would be interesting, especially since they also just cast Thalia. So what's gonna happen? How is this all tying together? It's pretty interesting. But either way, I'm enjoying what they're doing so far. So hey, Team Arrow, CW, keep up the good work. Moving on to DC's Legends of Tomorrow, I have to say that it was one of the better episodes. You know, dealing with race issues and American history is never an easy thing to do. You can always do something too much or not enough, and I think this previous episode had just the right amount of emotion for it. It was sad where it needed to be, thought-provoking, and they didn't overdo it in too many ways. There was a couple scenes that were a bit of a hard watch just because, historically we've had our rough times as humans, let alone Americans in our history. So watching it play out was a bit difficult for some people, and for me, having a character go through tormenting things can be very difficult. But I liked how they didn't focus too much on it. It was enough to get the point across, but not harp on it. And they moved forward with the story. And I liked seeing Vixen. I liked how she switched her accent back and forth. Now, given I've seen the actress on, I want to say it was the originals, but another CW show, but having her going from pretty much as close to an American accent as possible into a British style accent was really interesting seeing, or not British style accent, Southern accent, going back and forth. The reason I said British style accent because I was actually thinking of when Meteor was talking, and that's the accent she's using. Excuse me. So, anyways, watching her do that and go back and forth with her character obviously being closer to what the audience feels. It's like, well, why don't you just do something now? Why don't you just do something now? And then Jackson feeling like, well, if we do, it could mess up the timeline more, and so on and so forth. I liked how they took the two characters and had them playing with the conflict of interest, because both of them are aiming for the same goal, but who's right? Because they both can't be right and can't be wrong, or can they? So the way that they played that I thought was really interesting, and I liked how they finished the story nice and clean. The zombie part was kind of funny, just because it felt like, well, Walking Dead is really popular and these shows really popular, so why don't we just go ahead and have an episode like that? And it felt like that. It was just weird. I'm not sure how I feel about the Atom becoming the new Captain Cold. I don't know, it's not that it's a weak thing, but it feels a little light, I would say, for me. I prefer him to be more involved. He's on the ship with tons of technology and things that are there from all over time and space. He doesn't necessarily have to build another suit exactly like he had per se, but he could try building something else. I don't know. It's me. Otherwise, bring the other Colt back and let us be happy with that and let him do something different. Well, no, we'll see how the story plays out. Steele being on the show is interesting because there's a lot they can do with the character, and considering in some iterations he's kind of like a B and sometimes C character, they're starting to slowly use him more on the team and with the team, and I think that's a really smart move, because otherwise, he's just the 10 man that's standing around. Yes, I know he's Steele. I'm just saying. But anyways, I enjoyed these two episodes. I'm hoping next week will be just as fun. It was a good balance because Flash and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were a bit light this week as far as some of the characters. The stories, the character development was decent, but the story wasn't as deep or as involved as the previous episodes. But in the opposite direction, they kind of made up for it with Arrow and DC's Legends of Tomorrow as far as the Flash goes, because it's CW, because of the way that they played these last 2 episodes. So again, thank you, really appreciate it. I will also have I'll upload my reaction to Wonder Woman shortly after this. I just hadn't uploaded yet. I've been on the road going back and forth, so apologies everybody. I will try and keep up with you guys. I am so excited for this movie to come out. I will man, I didn't want to watch the trailer, but I couldn't help it. I just couldn't help it. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If there's any questions you guys have, please let me know. I will say that some of these episodes feel like they're taking parts from the comic books, the old comic books, and some reboots. And I'm enjoying what they're doing with it on the screen, because sometimes it's really difficult to have something come from page to screen. And giving homages to some of the old storylines and some of the characters and stuff like that is really, really nice for those who have been reading for a long time or have gone back to read some of the older stories just to see where some of the ideas and characters for today's TV shows and movies are coming from. So if you haven't, take a look at some of the JSA issues from, I'd say, roughly like even Golden Age is interesting. The Golden Age stories, it doesn't necessarily have to be JSA, but the Golden Age stories, they have some really good, Silver and Golden, have some really good storylines. There's some cheesy things in it too, but remember it was, part of the times. So take a look at some of those things, look up some of the characters, take a look at Steel. He's got some interesting things that have come about. His character in, I want to say just before New 52 or just after they introduced New 52. Even Earth 2, specifically Earth 2, New 52 Earth 2 series was really interesting, especially how they played some of the B-list characters or the side characters from like the Justice League or the JSA. It was really, really interesting, and I see how some of it is influencing some of the writing and character arcs for these TV shows. So you guys should definitely check it out. On that note, keep it super. Much love. Leave me some comments and let me know what you guys think. Talk to you later.